Welcome to the Bear Cave. Another horrible loss for the Chicago Bears, and I can do nothing but smile about it. So let's just give our instant reaction. Dobbs, you go first, and then I'll go.
All right, I'm going to keep it short and concise so that you can get to yours too, and then we can just have a general discussion. All right, look, so let's just start with the obvious, right? Poles masterclass. I mean, you just gotta love the roster construction, Hunter. I mean, look, okay, where do we start? How about this? Let's start with this. Okay, obviously, again, like everyone always says, it's not that there's no blame on Caleb. Like, actually, my biggest problem right now is that it's like Caleb's footwork seems like it's getting worse every week. They've taken more of the killer instinct out of him every week. And I'm just sitting back and I'm like, dude, where's the Caleb, that I grew to love because the Bears are taking it out of it. It's killing me to watch this. But again, but then you get back to reality. It's like, okay, facts. The O-line is absolutely abhorrent. Receivers truly, I mean, the receivers, right? He misses them here now, but for what it's worth, they aren't holding their weight. And for what the capital's been invested in them, they're not holding their weight. The defense, where do we start? I mean, as far as the defense goes, Hunter, where even do you start addressing it? Like I said, Jalen Johnson got paid. Jalen Johnson's not the same Jalen Johnson. I just that's the kind of the thing is, like, I saw a tweet that was so funny because it was just the most accurate way to put it at this point. It was like, dude, we're fine. The Bears only need a new, and it listed like 14 positions.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I truly can name. I'm not trying to be funny. This is not like a joke. I could name you less positions that the Bears have any certainty going forward than positions where I'm confident any way that we have any, like, right, there's any longevity in any starting positions. So I guess all that to say, Hunter, where do we start?
Here's where we start. Ryan Poles cannot be back next year. He can't. He can't. Please tell me why. Like, listen, I don't necessarily disagree with the idea of going and getting a running back in free agency to help your rookie quarterback. DeAndre Swift, not the guy I would have spent money on personally. Here's the other thing. Caleb Williams is missing guys that are open. That is a problem, and he is not absolved of blame. Rome Odunze has to catch that ball. Keenan Allen needs to catch a lot of those balls that were thrown at him that he dropped.
Oh, he has to catch that ball, especially after his dad was talking this week.
Well, I guess my thing is like, okay, so first off, we need to talk about the people that were credible and they advocated that Thomas Brown is a realistic head coach candidate. Obviously, he is weighing over his shoes, his skis, and I'm not even trying to like shit on Thomas Brown. Like, he was put into an impossible position. You are forced to develop a number 1 overall rookie quarterback while also being promoted from offensive passing game coordinator to offensive coordinator and then head coach.
Have you ever heard anything like that before?
Kieran Amagaji. No. It's beyond me. It would be equivalent to, I'm not even gonna say that. Never mind. That's too out of body. But my thing is, Larry Borum has not been a good football player, but in times where you need a tackle, he has been able to play for you. And
the Bears have me
just not great.
Today, I forgot to plug my headphones in.
Kieran Amagaji, 3rd round tackle from Yale. He went to Hinsdale, which is a suburb of Illinois, and that was a draw for Ryan Poles. Ryan Poles sucked as an offensive lineman, and he sucks at evaluating offensive linemen. Kieran Amagaji should have not seen the field today. He killed multiple drives. He got Caleb killed, and also just malpracticed by the coach to also leave him on an island most of the night. Like, Caleb is not absolved of blame. He had plenty of missed throws where he airmailed or missed open guys. But the further we get into the season, because Dobbs, you remember kind of before, and then we'll get into general discussion after we enter into reaction, but you remember before when things were kind of going downhill, they're like, they won't fire Eberflus. Like, they won't break the tradition. Like, it's not going to happen. And then everything started falling apart a little bit more, and they're like, well, maybe they will. And then it started falling apart more, and they're like, okay, they kind of got to fire him. And then they fired him. And then after they fired him, people were like, oh, but they won't fire Poles. And then it kind of looked horrible for San Francisco. And they're like, well, maybe the seat's heating up a little bit. And then that piece comes out from Dan Wiederer. And now after tonight, everyone's kind of like, okay, Poles has to go. Like every time you think there is a rock bottom for this team, it just gets lower. It gets lower every week. Every week. And I don't know how, as Kevin Warren, who came in last year and said that he was going to let Ryan Poles make the decisions because of the fact that he wasn't there and Ryan had been there previously. There's no way as a team president and big voice as big a voice as Kevin Warren is, he lets this go into next year with his stamp of approval. This team is so far away from competing. We are the Browns of the AFC North. That's what we are right now. It is laughable. And I would argue the Browns are a more complete team. Yes, they don't have the quarterback, but we don't like I love Caleb and I would love him to be our guy. But like right now, the coaching staff does not have him prepared to have a successful NFL career.
Well, no, I mean, again, look, that's the biggest problem. And like I said, I mean, I talked about this earlier in the year, right? Like him missing, like, and the way he misses some of these throws is really a problem. Like, just a little side note, but a lot of the times when he misses these throws, you can see the same thing. Like he moves his base like while he's throwing the football. And it's just like it's little stuff you can coach out of a guy. But again, this is stuff that needs to be addressed right away this offseason. And it's stuff that I would be addressing already in midseason. Every week that you allow these habits to keep growing and getting worse, it's not helping anybody. But I mean, look, again, that's the funny. It's not even funny. It's just sad at this point. The sad part is that that's the least of this team's problems, Hunter. Right? If Caleb's footwork being problematic was the least of our problems, we would the Bears would still be in a fine position right now. We haven't even talked about all the money Poles spent on what? I mean, and again, right? Hindsight's 2020. In the moment, a lot of them seem like good signings, but again, and I'll be the first to say it, and I know this might get backlash from some Bears fans, but look, man, I always like to call it how I see it. Not that he's bad by any means, because he's not, but Montez Sweat is also the fifth highest paid edge in the league now. Is Montez Sweat playing like the fifth best edge in the league? Absolutely not. And I know people will sit here and say, oh, well, dude, the D-line as a whole is a terrible unit, so he can't do anything. Well, I would argue that's not completely true. I could name you so many case studies where that's not the case, right? Why we could go and find one guy in a D-line that produces heavy when the rest line's not doing good. And to that point, this is the first week that Gervon Dexter has been out there. I'd argue that Gervon Dexter eating up 2 blocks is a pretty good situation for a lot of edge rushers. So, again, I know his pressure rate's higher than the sack numbers. I'm aware of all of this. But, it's kind of one thing that's kind of slipped discussion so far this year, too, is that Montez Sweat's making over 20 M's a year. And, I can't say you're a big fan of that one either. So it just hits a point where I guess we have to ask, where has the money Poles spent, right? Because that's where it's at this point, Hunter. Besides getting lucky, because that's what it is. He made it the right decision, because sometimes that's how life goes. Sometimes you make the right decision and you get really lucky and you luck out into a situation that was better than you expected. I don't even want to think of an analogy for it right now, but we could think of one. So that's how the Carolina pick went. He made the right decision and he lucked into something better than what he expected. But besides that, Hunter, what do we have to show from the Poles tenure? A good quote at the press conference?
Ryan Poles has to show the 14-game losing streak and the 8-game losing streak, the longest in Bears history and the tied for second longest in Bears history. Ryan Poles, bro, this is it's crazy because we both backed what he did when he started, and I really think, obviously, not addressing the trenches enough was a big problem. But I really think a lot of this compounded when he brought back Flus. The fact that Flus, you knew, they didn't announce that they were retaining him right away. It was a 3-4 day process before they announced that Flus was coming back. Please tell me when a coach on the hot seat has survived. It doesn't happen in the NFL. If you bring a coach back and he's on the hot seat, he doesn't survive after the next year. He never does. And this is something that we've talked about a lot. My allergies going crazy. Um,
Well, I feel you on that.
I it's just like the Bears are consistently too late on things. They're always too late. It just sucks because it's like it's very evident that like Caleb and Rome are like very talented players. But this is someone who like everybody, every single person that Ryan Poles has been involved with when it comes to the coaching staff has been bad. They have been bad. Luke Getsy, bad.
It's an understatement.
Alan Williams, bad. Uh, Matt Eberflus, bad. Richard Hightower, the special teams coordinator, bad. Eric Washington, bad. Matt Eberflus, horrible. Shane Waldron, even worse. Like Thomas Brown has done okay under the circumstances. Like I literally actually expect nothing from Thomas Brown. So like I guess he's done okay, but literally every single person Poles has touched on the coaching staff has been bad. How do you allow him to have control over the coaching staff in 2025? He shouldn't even be in the office. Like, I'm just so over the fact that most of the time, the fans are right on the front office's decisions. Like, fans can collectively tell you if the front office is making the right decision or not most of the time. And it's been this way for a decade, like the last decade plus. Like the Bears have not been good in any sense of the word with sustained success since the Lovie Smith era. Yeah, we had 2018. But like I'll tell you right now, like fans would kill for Matt Nagy at this point. They would.
That statement is just, and that's the state of the franchise. I mean, that's to sum it up shortly, it is. I mean, look, you know what, Hunter, the phrase going forward we need to trademark is just it's what is there to say? It's all it literally is. Like, what is there even to? Where do you start? I mean, and again, but it's that's the thing is, Hunter, it's so obvious that it's so funny because it's like it's so obvious that we almost know that there's a 0% chance the Bears are going to do it. That's what it's crazy. Like firing Poles is so obvious. The two things align so well. It's funny, it's funny how like sometimes the synergy of things work. Like you have Ben Johnson coming out saying, just let you guys know, for me to be the head coach, I want to have basically an alignment with a new front office. I want to have, right? So it makes sense. And then you have the Bears front office that are just going to sit there with their jaw open like, oh, Poles retained? Got it. Okay. So yeah, and then we'll downgrade from Ben Johnson and it'll be another cycle of the same thing. It's almost so predictable that it's just like, and it's gone from depressing to just outright like depressing is not even the right word anymore. It's really not. It's like I'm struggling to think of like the right English word to describe what it's been watching
insanity.
this
It's
season
insanity.
specifically.
It's no, I'll tell you what it is, Dobbs. It's mind numbing. That is the best way I can describe the Bears. It is mind numbing. Watching the Bears try to run it up the middle with DeAndre Swift time and time and time and time again makes no sense. They did it the first time, it didn't work. And then they did it again. DeAndre Swift is one of the worst running backs. Go check the tweet. He's like 62 out of 68 running backs who have taken, I believe, 20% of the maximum snap count for running backs. He is horrible as soon as he gets touched. Why are you giving it to him on 4th and 1 twice? We know he has horrible vision at finding holes. Why would you give it to him up the middle? And like this is the thing that blows my mind is I do think that it's getting to a point where Bears fans have been sold shit by the front office for the last however many years. And people have been like, okay. I really think people are fed up with it because of the fact of this Caleb Williams, they have never drafted a prospect like Caleb Williams at quarterback. And they are
That's
fumbling
a
the
fact.
ever-loving fuck out of it. Like a whole new level of fumble with this. And I think it's opening a lot of Bears fans' eyes who think that, like, oh, we're just this away. Like, we're just this away. Like, no, like, there's not this. It's not, oh, well, they made the mistake, but they got this right. Like, what I've learned watching sports and watching, like, just anything in life, like, you can break down, like, you can really break down stuff into complexity and, like, be like, oh, well, Ryan Poles inherited a bad roster and he had to rebuild it and this, that, and the third. People are going to remember you for what you did during your tenure. It doesn't matter what you got left with. It doesn't matter what you did if you didn't build a winner. Doesn't matter your circumstances. People are going to remember your tenure. And the fact is, Ryan Poles has a horrible record. He's made horrible decisions. And yes, while he has lucked into Caleb Williams, if you lay out his decisions, every single transaction he's made in terms of trade, draft, free agent signings, they do not look favorably. And when you look at the good decisions he's made, they're not like smart decisions. Like they're like a monkey can fucking write. You know what I'm saying? Like you know the saying what they're talking about. Like basically what I'm saying. Like a blind squirrel will find a nut eventually. Like it's just like it's just like one of those things like, oh, I have the number one overall pick and Caleb Williams is in the draft. Like, yeah, I'm going to take him. Like, congrats, you bamboozled the only worst franchise in the NFL. Congrats. Like, I don't know what, like, Ryan Poles said it would be hard to make this roster, the 4-10 roster. And it's just like, it's time and time again that we come back. I'm sorry, Dobbs. I know I'm ranting.
No,
It's
because I have
time and
something to say
time
that's going to blow your
again
mind after this.
that Ryan Poles, in his statements to the media, has showed his ass. He showed his ego. He showed his arrogance. And here's my thing.
I
I
called it day
think
one,
Ryan
Hunter.
Poles. I think Ryan Poles will look back on this in maybe 5-10 years and be like, I probably would have done those things differently as a normal person would. And I'm not trying to like come at Ryan Poles the person, but I think when you're really young, right, and you are put into a very high position that only a very limited number of people have, you have this sense of
Of a
like
very high
arrogance
market,
and
might I
ego.
add.
Yeah, like, well, that's what I was about to say. Like, one of the most historic franchises in the NFL. You're like, damn, I must really be him, but you're not him. Like, you got a chance and you thought you had it and you didn't. And I think he would, if in 5 years, probably look at this and be like, I would have done things differently, and that's fair. But the reality is, we don't have time to waste, and you have not put the Bears in a position to succeed, even in the short term future. Like, yes, we have a ton of picks. Yes, we have a ton of cap space, but this team is in a year away. Like, it's not a year away.
No, absolutely not. And like, and here's what the thing, Hunter, that I want to say. And obviously, before let me just preface. If they had hired the guy I'm about to talk about, like, yeah, they probably wouldn't even be in a situation where they would have Caleb. So it doesn't really, but here's my thing. The Bears have had multiple opportunities to get the head coach right where you say, wait, okay, because this is my thing. And this was, we talked about this exponentially when it was happening. Because some people, and it's funny because I told people for years how great of a coach he is. And there's, some people out there, I don't know how you could possibly think it, but there's people that were actually bamboozled that Sean Payton wasn't a legendary coach and a legendary offensive mind.
Dude,
And when he was on the
after his
market, I was
first year in
saying
Denver, they were saying he was ass.
it was so simple. Like it was very simple. All the Bears need to do is hire a guy from Illinois, like Sean Payton. And everything would have been, not everything, but things would have started getting fixed. Even because obviously, like we're saying, the Bears would have had Caleb, but there would have been some form of culture that would have been in place, and there would have been some identity being established, and there would have been a purpose moving forward. And There is none. The team has, again, so as far as culture goes, the team has, right, like we talked about, even just back to one play of the game, but it basically sums up the Bears culture in a nutshell. Jonathan Owens makes a tackle on
Oh
what was
my
a third and
god.
17, and he
Third and
starts
17.
riding the imaginary horse as if, we're in any type of situation. Again, as I like to go back to and point out, you go find me, Hunter, you find me the tape, I'll watch it. Go find me one Bill Belichick team where they're even making a good play and riding the imaginary horse. You know, cultured squads, especially in that situation that early in the game. Maybe tap your guy in the helmet, let him know good play. We have 3 more quarters. We got to go kick some ass. They were satisfied making the tackle on 3rd and 17. It doesn't even matter that it resulted in a first down. We got the guy on the ground. I'm gonna, that was the,
Pathetic,
if you had
Dobbs.
to,
It really is
if you had to
pathetic.
pick the play of the game that really summed up the last 5 years, I was going to say full decade, but I can't because the Nagy era, the last half decade. Yeah, that's the one. And again, but just back to the main point here, the Bears have had so many opportunities to get the head coach right. And what they do is they they hold on to the dead weight, hoping that they can fix them. It's like a toxic relationship. They're like, no, we can fix them. Like, just one more year. They just, my analogy. They just need more time. Like, they're going through a tough time, and it's like, these are the people that lead your franchise. But again, it all goes hand in hand. When the people that are literally the ones in charge of making the decisions that are all monetary and putting the people in charge of the franchise have no idea what they're doing. Well, of course, the people that they're putting in charge of making the football-related decisions that are not mine. You get what I'm saying. I'm trying to say a lot at once. But the people in charge of making the monetary decisions and putting people in charge of the football decisions have no clue what they're doing. Well, of course, the people making the football decisions have no clue what they're doing. And Hunter, again, so we talk about how instead of being depressing at this point, it's just insanity. No, it is insanity. It's everything about the situation. And anyone who, thinks that if you just because that's kind of what's funny at this point. There are people like, well, if you just replaced Caleb with Jaden or any other rookie, you throw any rookie in the situation and it would be a reversal of everything that's going on right now. And if you think that anything in the opposite, you're completely remiss. Again, like I've said, and plenty of GMs would agree with this. You get this on record 100%. I would love to get multiple GMs' opinions on this. Because right now, whenever after everything with the Bears put him in the situation, it's so easy right now to hate on him. But you did a redraft of the last decade of quarterbacks, taken, and Caleb's going top. I mean, realistically, and I'm talking about purely off of their college seasons, not like when we revision, like, oh Lord, we're gonna have Lamar and Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. Like, no, I'm talking about their college tape. Caleb's, you could argue that Joe Burrow would go number 1. But right up there is Caleb for sure, either number 2 or number 1. Because what Joe Burrow did was obviously he's an LSU fan too. It's kind of like, well, there's no doubt Joe Burrow is going to translate damn near flawlessly. But again, I mean, what the Bears have done to Caleb, it's like there's no one's going to come in and succeed. And as we've talked about before too, and it's not hyperbole. I'm completely serious when I say this. If the Bears, because it's kind of the thing, like, well, what if the Bears drafted Mahomes, right? Even though that was because he was not anybody's radar to go number 3 overall. If the Bears drafted Mahomes, he would be either finding a resurgence somewhere else, or he'd be someone's backup by now, because that's literally what the Bears would have done. That's what the Bears do to quarterbacks. It's kind of like, and it's like we've said, you take when you take someone, all their tools they had, you squander them, and then you crush the confidence. It's kind of like just a cycle of like, it's like a garbage factory. Like, but except it's not garbage coming in. There's a good piece coming in, and then they just crush them through they throw them out with no confidence. At this point, Hunter, I don't even know what to say. I mean, and again, it's kind of like, how can we go through so many years of the same process before people start to realize that it is an organizational thing? The Bears never care about the trenches enough to actually put the right pieces in place. The quarterback gets crushed. Their confidence gets crushed. They lose their mechanics, and it's the same everlasting cycle. And so, and again, I always use it as my example. You don't think O-line matters to quarterback play? You can go back and watch the Bucks versus the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, and it's like it's night and day. When Mahomes didn't have 3 of his starting O-linemen, 9 points in the bowl, no touchdowns, more turnovers than touchdowns. I mean, that's how football works. So if you think that the O line situation and the play calling situation doesn't matter, and it's all on Caleb, because again, Caleb hasn't been anywhere near what we expected because of the situation, but he still shows flashes where again I still have so much confidence in him. But you have to ask yourself how much longer can he handle this? That's where it's at. I
Yeah,
mean, really
I
hard. Like
think
how do we progress from this?
I think my thing is you have to look at it like you just this sounds like crazy, but you have to hope that like James Odunze and Carl Williams are vocal enough to the point where it like makes a change. Because what you said on the show before, and I have thought silently for a while, is no one is going to force Caleb Williams to sign the extension papers. Like if he is truly that good and is going to have his pick, no one's going to force him to sign here. And the reality is they have to get it right. Like if they don't get it right, they're fucked. And I just don't see a world where like I don't see a world where they okay, I do see a world where they don't get it right. But I don't see a world where they don't get it right because it would literally probably be like the end. Like not the end of anything like I'm being very dramatic, but it would just be the end of a lot of hope for Bears fans. Like realistically, like I feel like Bears fans have been pushed and pushed and pushed. And like for me, it's hard knowing that the fan base could probably make not all, but a lot of the times when they question the front office's decisions, they're usually right. And everybody knows that they have to get Ben Johnson. Like, would I be upset if they got Vrabel? No, but it has to be Johnson or Vrabel, and I heavily lean Johnson because the reality is, okay, let's say Johnson can't lead a team, right? Okay, we can talk about culture all we want. The reality is, the best culture is winning. That's how you set a culture. And Ben Johnson, he's going to get you some wins strictly off offense if the GM is aligned in terms of building the trenches. Because I don't like the argument that, well, Ben Johnson has the best offensive line in football. Okay, that's fine. No matter who comes here, they're going to have to deal with this offensive line. So you either spend the money to fix it or you don't. No matter what coach is in here, they're going to have to deal with it. So you're going to have to fix the line anyway. But my thing is, if you get Ben Johnson in here, let's say that he can't get us over the hump, but he's able to develop Caleb. And let's say year 5, Caleb looks great, but Ben Johnson is not the guy. Well, you have the quarterback. So who cares? Just you have to get the offensive guy in here. You have to choose Ben Johnson because Caleb Williams is the obvious pick. Ben Johnson is the obvious pick. Do not overthink it. Do not be the smartest person in the room again, like the Bears consistently try to be. And maybe you might win something of substance.
I mean, yeah, again, it's just, it's trenches, Hunter. It's trenches. And if the first 3 at least picks of this draft aren't trenches, I'll truly be speechless. And again, if almost all the money in free agency is not trenches, I'll be speechless. Because again, it all goes hand in hand. Something people forget all the time, right? Like as far as defense goes, DBs, safeties, they start to decline when they don't have a D line. Go figure that when guys have a really good D line, you don't have to be in coverage as long. You're going to
Yeah.
look a lot better. And same goes for receivers, except in vice versa. When you have no time to develop or re-stem or do something creative, you're not going to look as good. And when your O-line isn't giving you any time, it's just vice versa of each other. So the Bears have failed miserably at both of those categories, both of those units. And it's like, but that's really what's so just depressing about it, Hunter, is like we've kind of discussed, is realistically, unless Ben Johnson is that good, and the Bears have to get him in the building and get him to sign the papers first and give the money up, which they never have done. It'd be unprecedented the money that he's going to want in terms of what the Bears give out for their coach. So 3 things already have to align on top of the fact that it's like, can anybody really fix these trenches units in 1 year? I don't want to say it's impossible. We've seen situations where basically the Commanders this year, where you're like, wow, there's absolutely no way they're going to fix those trenches. And within 1 year again of getting the coach right, and getting the culture right, some way somehow they do completely flip around the script and get the trenches right. But by no means are the Commanders right, a fully established unit. But that's kind of the point I'm getting at, is that even with just when everything is in place as far as the culture, the things start to come together, and a scheme that operates for your guys. It's just a lot of things have to happen this offseason because, like we said, it's like no Bears fan at this point wants to keep dealing with, it's just, we built on this year, right? The expectation this year with Caleb was playoffs for good reason.
There's no denying
this roster on paper looked playoff ready. And, that's kind of the whole thing. Like Nate said, wouldn't be the situation if they hired Harbaugh, wouldn't be in the situation if they hired Sean Payton. We could go further and further year by year. It's just, and I'm going to say this too. Again, last thing I'll stop ranting. If Ben Johnson isn't the guy, or he finds a situation he deems either that they will pay him more money, or he deems that the Bears are too dysfunctional and I'm not going to risk my status on them, I'm going to go somewhere else. Well, you know what? I'll stand on this hill, Hunter. The Bears have got to go out swinging on Joe Brady, because I really do think Joe Brady's got to be your second choice at this point. Again, what he did with the wide receivers at LSU, I mean, you could sit here and say they would have been amazing without him, but I'm big always on that. Yeah, well, especially when you're younger, the stuff you learn is so important. I don't think it's a coincidence, albeit, yes, they are incredibly talented and specimens of athletes. I don't think it's a coincidence, though, that Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson are incredible at their technique and the little details that they have. I think it's because, again, Joe Brady is their coach, right? That positional coach. And and also the offensive passing game specialist. So, the Bears have problems with everything, but having someone come in that's going to just be an amazing offensive mind, if you can have the most amazing offensive mind, Ben Johnson, I think you got to go out swinging on Joe Brady, because I think Joe Brady's going to get Caleb's footwork right again. B, he's going to have the receivers at least, and not that it's like I've kind of said, it's really not the receiver's fault, but at least will mitigate the fact that what the O-line isn't doing. And from there, I still have faith that he can identify the right guys to at least get on the offensive trenches via the draft, having his input in place, right, for his scheme. So you got to go out swinging on one of the two. And if they don't, we'll be back. We will very likely be sitting here 365 days from now, Hunter, on December 16th again, talking about how did the Bears not get it right. And it's basically, there's basically one of two things that can happen.
Just before, I think at this point, we should just kind of wrap it up. But I think the closing note should include the fact that Caleb Williams, and this is a low bar, and this is not a encouraging bar, but Caleb Williams still on pace to throw for the most yards a Bears quarterback has thrown since 2015, almost 10 years. And as a rookie, that's very impressive, especially what he's going through. Like, people can shit on the fact that Caleb makes mistakes on the field. What has been better? Like, in the last 10 years, what have we seen that has been better? Like, I don't understand the nitpicking and infighting with the Chicago Bears fan base over Caleb Williams. He is a rookie. Next week, he'll break the 3,000-yard mark. Like, he's already breaking records. Like, what are we talking about? Like, it's Bears fans, I feel like, want to be good so bad that when they see something that isn't immediately like Mahomes, they're like, oh, we fucked up again. No. Caleb is thriving in spite of
Mahomes
this.
sat his entire rookie year too. That seems to be
And,
something everybody forgets all the time, but we'll get back to that in a
and
second.
Caleb Williams tonight, okay? Caleb Williams was 18 of 31 for 191 yards and 1 touchdown. He took 2 sacks tonight, only 2 sacks, okay? No interceptions, 18 of 31. I'm interested to see what his adjusting completion percentage is after they calculate the drops in there. But Caleb Williams is 60 yards short of 3,000 yards. If he is able to average 200 yards the next couple games, he's going to be throwing for 3,500 as a rookie on his third OC and
Might
on
I
his second
add?
coach. Like, what are we talking about?
No, that's the thing, Hunter. Like, I just might I add, while heavily mitigating turnovers behind one of the five worst O lines in the entire league. There are some really bad O lines in the league. God knows the Bears are bad, but I wouldn't even say that's what's crazy is the Bears probably aren't even top 3 worst. We are witnessing some historically bad trench play. That's not a subject for right now. What I was going to say on top of that is, look, while also again, and this goes back to the Bears, right? This is, again, it's funny for everyone to sit here and be like, no, how do you not realize the problem? No, how do you not realize the problem? The problem is that the Bears are the only franchise in the fucking league that would take the number one talented prospect over the last decade and give him a fucking, a coach who was literally got 2 promotions to be the interim head coach. How can you do that? Only the Bears. That's what's like. That really is something only the Bears would find a way to do. And so again, heavily mitigating turnovers. Yeah, you know what? It's not like we haven't acknowledged it, right? Yeah, Caleb Williams does have a lot of work to do as far as the footwork goes. As far as from the USC days, like I've said, I keep repeating, the footwork has made a regression. But is that on him, or is that the habits he has had to form behind this line and the coaches? Again, new QB coach, new offensive coordinator, new head coach. These are things that are all fixable. And again, besides basically, and also might I add again, same concept where Joe Burrow missed the entire rookie year. Mahomes missed the entire rookie year. Name me one guy who just steps in and it looks anything like near Mahomes. Do you people who want to, talk about Caleb, do you guys remember how Josh Allen looked? Even his first 2 years in the league? Like the people, like this is what people are so short-term minded, Hunter. Like people think that like amazing quarterback. Do you guys remember what Peyton Manning looked like his rookie year? Like, in fact, do you guys does anyone even know? Like, so people talking that was anyone like alive to even witness? These people like, were you people alive to witness?
It's also like he's not like he's missing like he's not reading the field great, but he's not throwing errant balls like into double coverage. Like he's literally he's taking the safe route. Like we can put it like that. He's not turning the ball over. He got blindsided today because his rookie tackle from Yale, who's been injured all year, couldn't hold it up. Yeah, so he fumbled the ball, and he fumbled the ball last week. But he's not throwing into double coverage. He's not throwing into triple coverage. He's not putting the ball in harm's way. Like it's just nitpicking to nitpick. And I think the fact that here's the thing. He was so gassed up this summer, right? He was so gassed up this summer, and it's the Bears who took him. And people don't like him because of how he was at USC. People don't like what he did. Whatever. Like, you can watch the game and understand that he's immensely talented. And the people who hate on him, like, it's fine. Like, I guarantee you anybody in this situation would be struggling.
Well, and again, I just, Hunter, because I'm seeing some comments here. All right, so Anthony, here I give you a prime example. Anthony, you would be the type of guy.
Don't even address his ass.
No, because this is what needs to be addressed. No, because people need to realize something, though, Hunter. Because Anthony, you need to take a deep thought about something. I need you to think about something. You would have been the same person. I don't even know how old you are. Let's assume you were even old enough to have witnessed anything around this time. So let's say I want you to think about this. You would have been someone who said Drew Brees is trash. You would have said Drew Brees is trash. How is he going to get a second contract? How is the team, especially coming off an injury? Oh, this guy, Drew Brees, he's mid. He's mid. But then, like how football works, situations matter for a quarterback. And then Drew Brees goes to a team that gave him an O-line. And that's what's funny is, fun fact for everybody, because, I as you know, I'm a Saints fan, right? We cover the Bears. You're the Bears homer. We cover the Bears. I'm Saints forever, right? So as a Saints fan, I saw that he didn't have, fun fact for you, he didn't have a Pro Bowl receiver or All Pro until Michael Thomas. And the receivers don't even matter. As far as, yes, they can boost you, but an O-line means everything. Well, you don't have an O-line as a quarterback. It's as good as I can't really think of the best analogy, right?
Well, he just keeps saying the Vikings are better, which is a fact. The Vikings are better. No one's arguing that.
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah, you're right. When
congrats.
The Vikings are
congrats.
And to the Vikings' credit, look, and it's actually exactly what proves the whole point, Hunter, is that when you have a good coach who puts a good culture in place, it elevates a roster. When you have a coach who can communicate to his quarterback the right fundamentals and techniques, and that's actually the irony of the situation. Anthony, you're aware of what your quarterback looked like the first 4 years of his career. It's so funny because it's a prime case study of Anthony. It's a prime case study of what happens when a talented player goes to a bad situation. See, it's funny. You want to be, you want to nitpick in Caleb's first year, and I'll stand on it forever. This will age like the finest wine. Everybody can be out on Caleb now, and everybody can have their fun now. That's how this works. You guys get to have, you get to have your blows. You get to, what a pick. It's kind of like the same people who are saying, wow, the Bengals took Joe Burrow number 1. And now look, he hasn't even played his rookie year. This is going to go terrible. Everybody gets to poke their fun now. That's how it goes. And then when the situation's right, and like we said, whether that's even now or the Bears, God forbid it happens. But let's say that he really does have to pull a Drew Brees and just end up on a second team, or even a Sam Darnold. I literally guarantee that people will be saying either one of two things. Wow, we were wrong. Like Caleb Williams was the guy, and go figure, situations matter. Or they're going to say, wow, the Bears really fumbled one of the greatest prospects of all time. Because it has to be one of two things. I promise people Caleb Williams is not a bust. The only thing that could bust Caleb Williams is if he keeps taking hits like this behind this O-line and doesn't figure out, because this is on him. He needs to start getting rid of the ball. He's trying to do stuff because nothing's working. People aren't getting open enough, and the scheme is terrible. So you know what? Yeah, he's trying to do too much. And like, I'm not going to sit here and hide that. But the bottom line is, if he doesn't get himself killed behind this line trying to do too much, and they upgrade the line even in the slightest margin, Caleb will continue to improve. Caleb will be a Pro Bowler soon. And I still believe fully, I'll never back off it. He has an all-pro ceiling for certain. But it's up to the Bears to get him to that point. Nobody's going to force the Bears' hand to make it a good situation. So it's on the Bears at this point, Hunter. It's been the narrative for years now, but they've never had a prospect like Caleb. And that's the bottom line. Nothing's going to change that. No amount of haters, no amount of predetermined judgment is going to change the fact that Caleb Williams is a generational prospect and that Caleb Williams has all the talent in the world to make it work. But the Bears have got to get him there. It's a two-way. It's a two-way. It's a two-way system. Caleb can only do so much.
Well, thank you guys for watching. This has been our post-game reaction to the Chicago Bears getting absolutely embarrassed by the Minnesota Vikings on Monday Night Football. Please never schedule them in prime time ever again. I would really prefer it.
Until at least next year.
Most of Bears fans would prefer it. Nope. Not even next year. Not next year. Only after they've had a year above 500, please. If you like the show, subscribe. We'll be live multiple times a week. At the Bear Cave 1920 on all social media platforms. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great rest of your night if you can. And the worst part is we didn't even move up on Tankathon. So
that's tragic.